Okay, we will now turn to the questions. We have a number of questions here, and we have time for 5 questions, and there'll be 90 seconds for each response. We will start with, David had the first opening remarks, so I'll start with Theo for the first question, and then David will have a chance to answer that after that. So the first question is, what would you change in the operation of the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office?
Obviously, as I mentioned in my speech, there are a few things that I would look to do differently. The big one, a couple of big ones, hiring Spanish-speaking attorneys. I think it's important. Arlington's conservatively about 17% Hispanic, and that's a large portion of victims of crime and potential witnesses of crime that have to communicate with their attorney through an interpreter. And I think that should be changed. I also would push for the drug court program. I think it's a very good program, as I've mentioned. The other thing that I would push to do is to increase the specialization of the prosecutors, especially for crimes like child sex, sexual abuse. I think those prosecutors should be specifically assigned and follow those cases from beginning to end. I've spoken with some victim witness advocates, and one of the main things that they have indicated that they would request is that attorneys, prosecutors follow the case from start to finish, so that a victim doesn't have to tell their story, which are usually very emotional and difficult to multiple prosecutors. And that's definitely a few of the things that I would look to change in the office.
Okay. So here's a very specific question. The questionnaire is essentially complaining about a current policy of the Commonwealth's Attorney Office assigning attorneys on the day of trials. And his question, or her question is, can that policy be changed so that attorneys are assigned earlier and then the public or the defense attorney is notified of who the prosecuting attorney is?
Yes, obviously with, I practice in Arlington quite frequently, so I'm familiar with how the process works. And certainly a docketing system for misdemeanors is fairly common. What I would push to do is to look at the docketing system and attempt to come up with a policy where cases can be assigned as soon as possible, so that a victim, if they want to call the week before, can have contact with the prosecutor that's handling that case. Sometimes it's difficult, sometimes things are going to get put on the docket last minute, but I would push to do that, especially with cases involving domestic assault, especially involving cases where it's a harm to a person. I think it's critical. I think it's critical that someone can call the office and not speak to just a duty attorney, but talk to an attorney that maybe only is assigned a day or two or maybe 3 days in advance of the docket. But I think that it's important that an effort is made, and I will make that effort, to have cases assigned as far in advance to a prosecutor so that a victim, if they want to contact the office, can do so, talk to that prosecutor. And then if the case gets continued, I will do everything that I can so that that prosecutor will follow that case until it's concluded.
Okay, the next question is about experience, and the question is, generally, how important do you view experience in the position, and then specifically describe your experience with jury trials?
I've been practicing for about 14 years. For those of you who aren't aware of the way practice happens in Fairfax County Commonwealth's Attorney's Office, it is a pressure cooker. It is a lean office, and in that capacity, I tried many jury trials. I don't have an exact count. Since I've left that office, I have been on the defense side. And there's something that you pick up when you deal with a client and you see a client going to jail that you just represented. On the prosecution side, sometimes it doesn't register when you're going in when you've got a heavy docket. When you're the defense attorney and that person goes in, it weighs on you, and you recognize the importance of every single case. I'm in court basically every day. I have handled on the defense side cases ranging from traffic to very serious felonies. I have had many jury trials over the years that I've practiced. I take every single case seriously, and I prepare it as such. I've practiced in federal court, I was also involved in the defense of the first spam case in the country out in Loudoun County a few years ago. Very complex technical case. And so yes, I do have the experience to do this job.
If elected as Commonwealth Attorney, what would be the relationship of the Commonwealth Attorney's Office to other departments of Arlington County government?
It's a very good question. Obviously, the big one is the police department. We work together with the police department on a daily basis. I've met with Chief Scott, and we discussed some of the issues that I'm raising in this campaign. He's a former chief for Fairfax County, and now he's here in Arlington. The police department in Arlington is top-notch. Obviously, that's a very big key that you would work with. Some other involvements, some other agencies within the government. Ingram Malloy is here, Commissioner of the Revenue. Obviously, there's been some investigations dealing with tax issues. Certainly, that's another agency that you want to work hard with. There are some agencies that aren't necessarily part of the government, but they're sort of connected. There's a women's shelter called Doorways that obviously deals with women that are involved in difficult situations of domestic violence. It's a very good program. I would look to coordinate the office with that shelter even more than it is now to make sure that those victims are protected and their rights are maintained.
Next question, I'll take the prerogative of asking one myself, and my question involves claims of actual innocence by people previously convicted before you take office. How would you address those? Would you be willing to reconsider cases based upon the claims of actual innocence and genuine possibility for your office? And David, I think you start.
That's a very good question. Obviously, these cases, a lot of them deal with the appellate court. So what you would be looking at, usually as far as the Commonwealth Attorney's Office is concerned, this would be handed to the Attorney General. Obviously, the Commonwealth Attorney would look at the facts of the case and try to review it. I'm guessing that probably where you're heading is something along the lines of a DNA investigation, some evidence that comes to light. Certainly, if it was a case that was decided prior to me taking office, some new evidence came out and a claim of innocence and there was DNA evidence that was brought out, it's certainly something that I would look at. You certainly don't want to take it lightly, the decision of a jury or a judge that has convicted someone by saying that a claim of innocence, you're going to just overturn it. But if there's something scientific like newly discovered DNA, obviously it's something that you would look at, take a long, hard look at, and more than likely talk to the Attorney General and see what options are available.
Final question, this might be, give you two shots at a closing statement, but can you tell us why you want this job and why we should vote?
I want to do this job because law enforcement is my passion. I prosecuted in Fairfax for a number of years. I then went to a law firm here in Arlington. I gathered experience on the defense side. I've seen what it's like. I've got a myriad of experience doing civil work, federal work, and I think that I am prepared to run this office. I've got a good perspective. I think doing that, seeing those prosecutors' offices throughout the state, I think gives me a good perspective on how I would run things. It gives me a good perspective on new ideas that I would bring to this office. I've mentioned a number of them tonight, and there are many more that I've thought of. And as I've knocked on doors throughout Arlington County and St. Paul's Church, those ideas have been met positively. I would ask for your vote because I know that I'm qualified to do this job. I love Arlington County. I've got varied experience to bring a fresh perspective